Good morning and welcome to the Donnie Glover Show. I apologize for the delay. We're out there doing some community service. We got a new best friend on the line with us. He has a birthday coming up. How are you going to be, man? 57? I just turned 57.
Yeah, I'll take that, but actually I'll be 68. Johnny.
Well, see, you still are a young man. My oldest sibling, 55, 57, 67, 70, 75. So you're still a young man. You're not old enough to be my oldest brother.
I'm very young man, very young man.
Yes, you
You
are.
know, hey Danny, I remember all the people told me that I wouldn't live to be 21, man. I defied all kinds of odds with that.
Why did they tell you that?
Because their math was, their arithmetic was bad, you know.
What does it mean to be a winner?
What does it mean to be a winner? Uh, I would say a fighter. You know, you can't win unless you fight. You know, it's all kinds of odds against you by nature and all that. So nature is designed to eliminate, selected, eliminate, weakness. It's like a process, selected process to bring out the winner.
Oh,
And to
so
get
you subscribe to Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest.
Not really, no. It's too many gaps in there. I think he was on to something, but he couldn't prove it, And
Or did he already have his conclusion before he posed the question? Because his conclusion is that one race was superior, that the white race was superior to the other races.
that's true. That's because he wanted to reach that. He really wanted to reach his autism that we all could have and not be aware of. It uh, it contaminates our science, so-called science. It's a lot of that in there. A lot of it's deliberate too. A lot of it is not self-conscious. Cultural imperialism and scientific imperialism. The desire to control and rule. And to be on top.
Well, a lot of these politicians want to be on top, and then when they get there, they don't act like they're on top. They act like they're on the bottom.
You said the key word, the opposite word is act. They acting. They acting to get there, but they don't really know what they're doing. They active.
That part.
They want to be on top. Everybody want to be on top. The bottom is not a nice place.
Mr. Rudy, I'm going to pose a question to you that was posed to me. What would you do for the squeegee kids if you were, say, in charge?
I would create an outlet to give them better opportunities to work and all. Because it's obviously they want to work.
Now, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, that is a good thing. Very good thing. At that age too, it should be some programs, other than, basketball courts and stuff like that, because everybody's not gonna be LeBron James and Steph Curry. That's that process selection, natural selection, survival of the fittest, Darwin again, the third. But everybody is not, very few people is gonna be, a reset where they're gonna get paid fabulous millions for being able to play basketball. So by creating basketball courts for our youth as the answer to crime or juvenile delinquency, that's not an answer really. Create academics. You got all these empty buildings downtown, and fill them up with people that got experience and knowledge that can teach them. People that been there, made the mistakes and all. Ex-fellas, that's really knowledgeable, really smart guys in terms of reality, more so than a lot of act, academics who have theory and no experience, never been out there on the front line. And that's what's happening. They making the policies, man. They making the policies, and policies are not realistic. They're based on, theoretical experiments. thinking that, you know, a lot of times something logic is not necessary to answer, you know. You think you work something out in your mind, that's logical and all that, but in reality, it don't work, you know.
So, in other words, the people in charge don't know what they're doing.
Pretty much, that's obvious because look at all the social problems that we have, you know, and been having as far as the school system. Kids don't know how to read all of a sudden. Kids are failing and all that.
Did you
So,
see that in your day growing up? Was it this prevalent when you were a kid? People not going to school, not reading?
no, it was not. That's what baffles me. How can you claim to not know how to teach children how to read phonetics and things like that when you've been doing it for 100 years? Then all of a sudden you don't know how to do it? That's a hidden agenda. That's playing engineering failure, what they call dumbing down people. They dumbing down people because people get too smart. You can't control them because they can challenge you. They know the bullshit from, you know, the real, you know. So you don't want people to get that smart, you know, the kids to get that smart, whole new generation that because they're gonna challenge the status quo.
Are you ready for some mental jousting this morning?
I'm
We're
ready.
being joined by Mr. Michael Haney. Hey, Michael Haney, I want to tell you, you ever watched the Jackson 5?
No, I watched the 5 Heartbeats. Good morning, Mr. Williams. How you doing, sir?
Good morning, Michael Hank. Pleasure to meet you.
So,
Pleasure to
Michael
meet
Haney,
you.
let me ask you this. In your day, because I think you might be Mr. around Mr. Rudy's age, learning to read and write, that wasn't a problem.
It was natural in my household. Natural.
But I mean among your peers. Where is this thing coming from today? We telling people not everybody's made for college. I'm insulted. Mr. Rudy, I'm insulted when I hear people saying not everybody's meant for college. When I see a cat going up Pennsylvania Avenue, one hand blindfolded, turned around backwards, hitting a wheelie through traffic. That is a brilliant mind right there. And you're not going to tell me that mind can't go to college. And if you run a business, you still got to know how to count your money. Where did we start embracing not everybody's made for college? I know cats in jail that got degrees. Where do we get this dumbass thinking from?
Some things like that are blinded. They blind us. If we just accept it and don't question it, they blinded, you know. And people repeat them, you know. And after a while, they gain validity or credibility. Phrases like in terms of reading and writing, they don't know how to. I actually stopped going to school, public school, in the 8th grade. But one thing I did, I learned how to read, write, and to count real well. And that skill, the reading skill, enabled me to give myself an education that you probably can't even get in Harvard, Yale. You know, that one thing I learned how to read and write in school. I stopped going in the 8th grade. I started hooking school.
Well, Donnie, I think it's a matter of everybody doesn't want to go to college. You know what I'm saying? And then when you look at the preparation of our public schools for young people going to college, it's a fact that let's look at just the Baltimore City public schools. Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta public schools are very similar. 90+% of our young people that graduate from high school, 90+% need remedial, right? Meaning that they have to take basic courses that they should have gotten in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade.
Where'd you get
Their
that
first year of
90%
high
number
school.
from?
I'm sorry?
Where did you get 90%? Because that's
So
a
you can go to,
lot
so
of people.
absolutely, absolutely.
And if it's 90%, you don't need no schooling before that because it's clear that they haven't done their job.
Well,
90%,
that that may be part of the problem. So Morgan State, as an example, works with CCBC, BCCC, Towson University. Hear me out, because what they do is prepare their students contractually to do remedial work.
Let me tell you something.
CCBC
I
does
can say
the
this
same
from
thing.
experience. BCCC might just want to pack up and go home.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily true or a good statement. You know,
I'm gonna say
particularly,
it because my
well, you know,
daughter just
you
went
gotta
there.
hear the facts, Donnie.
Let me
You
give
gotta
you a
hear the
fact.
facts.
My
Let's
daughter
talk
just went
facts.
there and transferred to Coppin, 3.8 student. And when she got to Coppin, they took an entire year from her. So I can't endorse BCCC or Coppin on that note.
Well, you know, maybe it was a sense of
Ain't
order
no
why
maybe
she went to
nothing. She's a
BCCC.
she a
So, so,
4.0
so,
student.
Donnie, let's talk realities. You know, because what I'm
They
saying is
suck. And
statistical
they've been
data.
there. You got the same black people in them
Statistical
positions for
data.
years.
If you want to get your CTA license or your CDL license, if you want to be a geriatrics nurse, maybe BCCC is the place for you. You know, if you weren't in desire of those areas of study, which are what we call certificate courses, then you shouldn't have gone there anyway. So if you went there and then you decide to go to a four-year institution like Coppin or Morgan, and by the way, Coppin was in the bottom 10 in terms of retention in this country of four-year institutions. Their retention rate hovered around 16 to 17%, meaning 16 out of 17 of 100 students remained with their classes. So there's a lot to do with all of our what I call urban institutions, be it four-year, secondary, post-secondary institutions. But what's not happening is the preparation of our young people graduating with high school diplomas for upper or post-secondary education. So that may be in what they're saying, that not everyone is college material, but there should be option. There should be career and college readiness for those that may not want to go to a four-year institution. But it shouldn't be because they can't read and write, which should be a basic. Like I told a couple of my kids, you're Google smart because you'd rather Google information than retain and study it in a secondary atmosphere. So our kids are given electronics so they can't write or have writing skills and style because they're on a keyboard all the time. And a lot of this is our doing. Mr. Williams, in spite of what Donnie says, I think you're probably younger than me. You know, we did not grow up with keyboards and with the ability to have information instantaneous. We grew up reading a
Right,
newspaper.
right.
Most newspapers are written on a sixth grade reading level. And everybody in Baltimore back in the 60s and 70s, when I was growing up, could read the Baltimore Sun or the News American or the Afro if it spelled its words correctly in that paper.
It, it might, Donnie, I have a minute. First of all, in terms of age and all that, you know, you look good, you know. So I don't know whether
You look good too, man. That's why I said, you know, Donnie's a troublemaker, and it's okay. You know, that's
okay.
why he's backstage right now.
But I think we need to get justice out of the subject. I think we need to back up a lot in terms of what you said that everybody don't want to go to college or college material. Not that they are your words, but that's what you know the prevailing understanding is, right? So we need to go back to what I'm gonna say is they don't want everybody to go to college. That's what I think it is. I think anybody can go to college and be college material, but they don't want any. Now let's go back to the original of the system, or go back to Malcolm X in his autobiography when he was in high school. He told a counselor that he wanted to be a lawyer, and they told him what? You remember the book? They told him, say, be realistic. You should consider being
Yeah.
a cop, something
Yep.
like that. Same prevailing attitude, the spirit, even though it's convert, it's not obvious. It still rule the system because they don't want everybody to go. When you go all the way back to the founding of United States Board of Education around early 1900s and all. Who founded them? Whose money went into them? Whose money went into Spelman and all? The titans of business. They wanted to create workers, manual workers and all. And then later
One
on,
of the biggest things, Mr. Williams, where we went wrong was Brown versus the Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas. You
right,
know, my mother will tell you that we thrived greatly when we were in segregated schools because we were in schools in the
totally
community.
agree.
The teachers were of the community. The teachers looked like us. Nowadays, in Baltimore, as an example, and we're going to use Baltimore as a base example, 60+% of the teachers in Baltimore are not of color or white, right? We've got 30% of the teachers in Baltimore that may be people of color or black. 10% of that are males, right? So the demographics are not conducive for a young person to look at as a role model and see that, hey, I can become up. You know, and part of it is, like you said, the strategy of having certifications and ensuring that teachers don't meet the medal. And Coppin, what was Coppin College or Coppin State decades ago? Coppin and Morgan were teaching colleges that provided educators for our community. And what happened to that? You know, but we have major issues with getting teachers that look like our children that are good role models and can handle them from a disciplinary perspective and understand how to go at their parents to ensure that their parents involved, because it's not just a systemic issue, it's a home issue, a family issue as well, big time.
I agree. But I think it's so big that parents don't really have a comprehension or awareness of it to do anything. And then they
Well,
got to
you know if your kid is not going to school, you know if your kid is not graduating, you know if your kid cannot read, and the fact of what you say, maybe that's the issue in its entirety, is that we're not taking accountability for our own young people.
I
There was
agree
a
with that.
time when the dope man would not sell dope
That's
in
right.
front of children or old people. There was a time
Or,
when the dope man, if I'm not mistaken, would not sell dope on Sunday. They certainly wouldn't sell dope in front of a church.
Or
But
school.
now, Mr. Rudy, last Sunday I saw a man who does not match the demographics of this majority black community shooting dope at the Avenue Market.
The beginnings of gentrification, that's where he's supposed to shoot. It ain't supposed to shoot in his own neighborhood. It's supposed to shoot in the neighborhood that they're getting ready to take over. That's why they sent him here to infiltrate. I keep telling you that. Is the old lady in your alley and the junkie that looks like from Suburba coming to Penn Avenue, they're the infiltrators beginning to take over that community. They say, get out of here, go down to Donnie's house, shoot your dope down Donnie's house, don't shoot your dope down here. They
So,
doing what they
Mr. Rudy,
say.
there was a time when addicts from other communities would get their dope and leave.
man, they
But
live in it. They walking down the streets. You know, every night I
no
could be out.
shirt on, bopping.
I might be out there driving home at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and they walking down with now the care in the world. I seen it last night. Females, not
It's
just
their community. It's their
yeah.
community. The next thing you see bike lanes. The next thing you see is them doing soil tests for environmental issues. And the next thing you know, they'll be offering Donnie $40,000 for his house. And 5 years later, it'll be priced at $300,000 to ensure that he don't come back.
That's right.
That's
And
how it is.
don't leave out the trees and all that. They planted the trees to make it look
That's
like
what I mean. The environmental soil test, man. The environmental soil test. As soon as you see them do that, that's what happens. In the schools, the closing of public schools is a sure sign, as they did with the 21st century plan here in Baltimore. The 21st century plan, $1 billion spend. They closed down many schools and many communities because schools are communities. And when they start doing that, you can rest assured what's coming next. And they did that to Lake Clifton. They did it to Northwestern. They did it to Langston Hughes Elementary or Junior High School. They did it all across the city. The 21st Century Plan, which Dr. Santalese was brought in here to do, to close schools and consolidate and prepare Baltimore for 2030. 2030, Baltimore will look more like DC than it does look like now. Believe me.
I disagree. And let me tell you why. Because 2030 is even closer to 2040 when the branding of America will have flipped and the majority will be people of color. So they're betting on that.
Already happened.
They're betting on that. And that is why they pushed abortion on the white women, because they want them white women to keep making white babies. Abortion has everything to do with the branding of America. Just like those guns. They're not getting rid of guns.
Donnie, do you know who the bigger user of abortions are in this country?
Black people. They push them on black people like left and right. But who they're more concerned with, black man, are them white women having white babies. Tell me I'm wrong, Mr. Rudy.
Both of
You have to
y'all
explain that concept to me.
going on at the same time. Like you said, like he said, how Baltimore would look in the 30s, and how you say in the 40s to Brown. Both of these trends are going on at the same time. Which one will prevail, we don't know, but it's both of y'all are true.
There's no doubt, Mr. Rudy. There's no doubt. There's no doubt when the red line is approved by our next Democratic governor, because off of every linear mile of rail, it's $100 million in economic development. And that means Sandtown, Lafayette Square, Harlem Park. On that side, you go to the other side of Franklin Street. You know, we know what's down there, close to the University of Maryland Biotech Center. That's why they built it. You can even start looking up on North Avenue, up near Coppin Heights, where they got Gary Rodwell preparing it for some interesting things happening there. You know, they don't do this a year out. They've been planning this for 20, 25 years.
Yeah, I'm confused. On one hand, you touting Coppin and HBCUs, hold up, don't cut me off. On one hand, you're justifying our HBCUs, and now you're saying HBCUs are complicit in the gentrification of Black.
I didn't say that, but you let me finish my statement, okay? Because we can look at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore.
Man, we can meet on Pennsylvania laws if you got me out.
Let's look at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, which is not your typical HBCU, as many of them that are funded in this country as a result of whites seeing that as reverse discrimination and are going there. University of Maryland Eastern Shore has a majority white population now, and they're HBCU. Coppin, with that center that O'Malley put up there, that was an economic engine, looking at now as an opportunity, may flip as well.
What center did O'Malley put there?
They have that biology center that they built just before the bridge on the left-hand side, that research center, big research center on North Avenue that O'Malley put up there as an economic.
I've never seen O'Malley do a damn thing for Coppin.
That's Ehrlich O'Malley did during his
time. That's Ehrlich money.
No, well, whatever. It happened during
it's Ehrlich money. O'Malley would
back to your point, Donnie.
It's a fact, right?
I'm not emotionally based. I'm statistically based. Statistics. It's about the data, man. It's about the data.
O'Malley did nothing for Coppin. Ehrlich put money up there.
O'Malley didn't do anything for me, but that tech center is up there as a result of his administration.
It's not, man. Go do
your converting Coppin Heights into a gentrified neighborhood.
That's Ehrlich money, okay?
Okay, then Ehrlich did it. The guy that's backing Dan Cox, the Trump theorist.
Dan Cox is gonna get mashed like mashed potatoes.
Well, he is going to get mashed, but let's look. Your boy Ehrlich, and I know you love Ehrlich, right? And Ehrlich,
words in my mouth, Mr. Haney.
I didn't say that you said. I said I know you love it. That was my mouth, my words.
Well, how would you know what I feel?
Okay. Well, listen. Anyway, Ehrlich is just as bad as
We're gonna
college.
cut this show a little soon, and then I'm gonna meet you on the corner of Pennsylvania and Lawrence at
Hey,
10.
I know, as you told Mr. Rudy, you couldn't stand me coming in here because I'm going to challenge you with data. I'm not going to run my mouth. When you disappeared, Mr. Rudy and I were talking about HBCUs and how they were our teaching centers for our schools in our community. And
Actually, you were
copycat,
talking about the schools you grew up in, the elementary school.
right? Segregation, desegregation may have been the worst thing that happened to us when it came to education.
We agree.
You know?
I agree.
That's the smartest thing you said all morning.
Well, I appreciate that, Donnie.
Hey, the subjects we're talking about are really complicated and deep. So we're gonna have to hear each other out, get to the bottom of it. We're gonna have to hear each other out whether we like it or not.
Oh, absolutely, man. And you know, that's what it is, Mr. Rudy, that our people need to hear. They need to hear these, conversations so that they get both sides of the coin. That's why we have this media outlet available for people so that they can hear differences of opinion on a multitude of subjects. Like we could talk about the Inflation Reduction Act that most people don't hear in our community because they focused on the 15-year-old girl that got shot in the head by the 9-year-old boy yesterday up in Edmondson Village. But we got to be able to absorb a multitude of things. We got to talk about Nancy Pelosi going over to Taiwan, starting a war where most of our black boys are going to be going to a war potentially that's going to affect our communities. There's a lot of things going that we need to raise our hand to and say, you know what, it is involving us. The decisions that you're making are involving us.
And if that's why history is important, because if you know the history, you don't have to know the whole history, but just in general history, we're gonna go to war for against China for their property. Taiwan was part of China. Europeans took it.
Taiwan,
They don't want to give it
Taiwan
back.
is part of, We
They don't want to
got
give
to
it back.
understand. You're absolutely right, Mr. Rudy. We have to understand that this country has not won a war since World War II when we had to drop the atom bomb on Japan to win that. China has 2.5 million soldiers. We have 1 million soldiers. China is more in proximity to Russia, who we're not real happy with now. We are brewing for a world war right now, and Nancy Pelosi pretty much co-signed that. And so all of a sudden, the kids on the street, the squeegee kids, are going to have a place to go in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe it's not that soon, but that's what typically happens, be it Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan. And if we aren't paying attention to what's happening right now, before we know it, our kids are going to be coming back in body bags with flags over the casket, and we're going to see a different form of retraction of our race, man. And that's what's happening right now.
I'm gonna tell you, when I think it was I was like 15, 16 years old, over city jail, got up in charge, and what year was it, 70? And I was in the juvenile section, and one day the military sent the ROTC in there saying, making deals that if you wanna like get your charge suspended and all, we put a recommendation.
That's what they do.
They go in the Army. And some
That's
guys
what they
jumped on
do.
it. But I was like, I'm not going in the Army to get around no shoplifting charge, and all. And I have to go over there, and kill and die. It didn't make sense to me, So I went on the trial, got my 6 months or whatever, and did it, came back.
Yeah.
But
We have to, Mr. Rudy, you are so right. We have to widen our lens in terms of what's going on in this world that affects the community, even where we are in Baltimore. The Senate on a Sunday and the House on a Sunday urgently passed $900 billion in spending where they didn't have the free child care act that they had planned to when Biden came in, or the no-cost preschool that was in the original bill. Much that was in Biden's original $1 trillion bill got cut out of this one, where they got over $500 billion in environmental stuff because that's what the other community likes, environmental. They've got significant amount of money in there for the IRS to get ramped up and hire 90,000 more people so they can begin to come at you and force you to go overseas. You know, we got to pay close attention to what's happening, real close attention, because sooner or later it's going to affect us. Yeah, what's happening in our backyards is important, but on a wider scale, man, there's some stuff happening in this world. Monkeypox. All of a sudden, how the hell does monkeypox get pointed to homosexuals?
That's how AIDS started out. And why monkeys? Where are all the monkeys at? Where the majority of the monkeys?
Well, the disease originally was in Africa in 1958. So all of a sudden, so is this part of germ warfare? Is this germ warfare? Is COVID-19 part of germ warfare? I don't know, but I know it's strange when a disease gets pointed towards a population of people, specifically like homosexuals and Black homosexuals, even more specifically. It's real.
Absolutely. We see history repeating itself. That's how AIDS emerged, got a foothold in America and other countries because nobody was worried about it. It was just killing homosexuals.
Yeah, we sleep at the wheel, man. We sleep at the wheel.
And it's the same thing with monkeypox. So we see these patterns, repetitive patterns over and over again. But the thing is this, right? In terms of us as a people, right? Even though I'm not letting us off the hook and all that, but the problem is too big. People now it's consistent of what they see. They know what they see, right? But who control what we see on TV, magazine, newspapers, and all that? Who controls
Donnie Glover, because we got to change that dynamic. I turned my news off of the Today Show, and in spite of Donnie, I listened to his show. In spite of Donnie, I listened to his show. I love him anyway because of what he carries, but it gets on my nerves. But it's okay because we love each other. But it's this kind of media that's important. It has to be credible. It has to be factual. He has great guests on this show, and we've got to watch where we get our information. Who else is going to hear about monkeypox? Who else is going to hear about the Inflation Reduction Act or Taiwan as the next center for a global war? Here is where we need to hear it, where people like Rudy, Mike, and Donnie are having conversations that are credible, factual, so that we're getting information somewhere, man. Not about where the next white party is on Friday.
The Donnie is going to challenge you. We need Donnie to keep us on our P's and Q's.
No, we need to keep Donnie on his P's and Q's with the factual information. Donnie has provided the vehicle. God has given Donnie the ability to have the ability to put this out there as a platform. And now it belongs, as Donnie says, to us to carry the message to each other and to other communities. This is what is scary with white America when we begin to communicate like this, when we begin to have real relevant conversations, and we're not just talking about the little kid murdered last night. It's unfortunate, but this problem in our community is bigger than that.
It's true. And we need people like you too.
Well, I appreciate that. All three of us are part of that village, you know, and we haven't even talked about Ron DeSantis, who may be your next president of the United States for real, and what he did down in Florida that affected Marilyn Mosby.
You said he would be our next president, excluding yourself.
You're right. I should have said that. Absolutely. Well, I misspoke, Donnie. You're absolutely right. Who could be our next president? Ron DeSantis, even though he lost that straw poll this weekend out of that very conservative convention that they had that Trump was at. Trump is not going to be in a position to run for the Republicans. Ron DeSantis, and that's how it becomes a groundswell of support. But what he did, he suspended a state's attorney in one of the largest counties in Florida last Thursday in Hillsborough County that encompasses St. Pete, Tampa, and Clearwater because the state's attorney wouldn't carry out the abortions right and began to talk about some of the transgender issues in the school, or other words, he was a progressive state's attorney like Marilyn Mosby was, like Sean was in Los Angeles, and like the attorney, I forget his name, in San Francisco that was recalled. And what these attorneys have done, Mosby has done, is become progressive on locking up people for minor offenses. It's kind of backfired because communities are like, man, these criminals are rolling all over the places like roaches. We got to do something, lock them up, and we don't have the patience to wait out the system so that Black people get a fair opportunity in the criminal justice system, which we haven't seen in years. And so now we're going backwards.
We've never seen justice.
Well, that's why Marilyn Mosby had in place what she had in place. It's just in 20 years, they'll be talking about the policies that she was trying to put in place as real and practical, but she's ahead of her time. Just like Ashawn in Los Angeles and the attorney in San Francisco, they're ahead of their time. People aren't ready for that.
Mike, Baltimore is more off the hook than it's ever been. People are rolling weed, smoking weed while talking to a police.
Yeah, and you know, Donnie, why that is? It's because of the lack of credibility that they see in people like you, me, and Mr. Williams. And let's be honest about it, that what's off the hook are my children's children. So I'm a grandfather. If we look at it in the big sense of it, we have no one to blame. If we really want to take charge and take ownership, we got to put the buck stopping here. It's my children's children. I raised my children. So if they can't read, what did I do wrong? They're raising my grandchildren. So if I did something that raised them incorrectly, what are they doing as an example? I've got to take accountability for what's happening so that I begin to look at the fixes of the issue. I've got to admit that, you know what, I screwed up. I gave my kids, instead of a book, I gave them an electronic and told them to leave me alone. I didn't take them to basketball practice and stay with them and coach them. I just sent them along the way and let them do whatever they wanted to do. I told them that marijuana wasn't a gateway drug. Let them smoke marijuana and reefer, and then from there, wherever it went, it went. And what can I say? I had no boundaries. And we have to own that.
I think what you're saying goes back to pre-integration. One time we knew we had each other, and we spent time with each other. But once they integrated and they come up with great society, affirmative action,
we moved to
all went for our American
Yep.
dream, and we went for ourselves. And that's what the teachers do. Nowadays, you have Black teachers, a lot of them. But what are their priorities? You know, getting a pay increase so they can drive Mercedes Benz, live out in the county, which is not a particular attractive thing, a trend no more, which they don't realize it. We still try to move in the county because we weren't allowed to move in the county, right? But the county is not happening.
Johnny,
So
and you are right.
these teachers,
Absolutely.
they think about their increasing their credit scores and all these trappings and things that will give them a bigger and bigger piece of the American dream. So they irritated by these kids that keep raising their hand, and while they're up there sitting behind their desk trying to figure out how they can increase their credit, these kids keep raising their hand, asking questions and questions. You got these Black teachers that's irritated now because they want a piece of the American dream. That dream has divided us. That's not our dream. That's not our dream.
Guilty. Guilty. I'm raising my
hand
hand because I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
You're guilty of what?
Mr. Rudy called me out.
You're guilty of what?
He said that I am focused on materialistic value instead of raising my kids. He said to me just now that I'm looking for a geographical cure, moving all over the place instead of dealing with the realities of my community and me and my children. And who are those squeegee kids as an example out there? They're our kids, or we're the grandparents of those kids out there. So where should the resolution and the problems be solved at for real? And then we put black leadership in place, which is why Baltimore is deteriorating, Donnie, that doesn't become accountable to us.
That's an
I'm
awful
raising my
statement. That's
hand
an awful
because, Mr.
statement.
Rudy, if we're going to change, I've got to own up to what I did and where I went wrong.
You just said black leadership is responsible for the failure.
No, we're responsible for the failure of black leadership because we don't hold them accountable. We're responsible for it. We have to begin to be accountable and stop passing.
Well, let's add some understanding in there. Black people have been under attack since our first interaction with the European in North America. It has been war from day one. It has never been equal.
Absolutely.
It's
and now we fighting ourselves too. So we have a civil war going on and a global war at the same time because we can't come together to fight the global war. So we got a civil war within our community.
It's not that we can't come together. We've been outnumbered and outmanned. It's like two guys
in the ring. Say outsmarted. You didn't say outsmarted.
I did not say that. It's like two guys. Right. Can I finish?
Sure.
It's like two guys fighting 10 guys. Of course, we're going to be tired, outnumbered, outwitted, but we keep fighting. And in the midst of all that has been done to us, we still achieve and dominate any industry we go in, including hockey. So I'm proud of us. On that note, I am proud of us to be 13% of the population and still producing PhDs, scientists, doctors, lawyers, civil rights leaders, Martin Luther King's Malcolm X. We are an awesome people.
Donnie,
and the reason the attacks are multiplying is because America is getting browner by the day.
Okay.
Donnie, I don't disagree with you. I appreciate you looking at that half full glass size, but we know that in urban America, in this country, as you said, we're in a crisis. We're in a crisis. Our children are in a crisis, even though, as you mentioned now, what do we look like based on the education value and where our young people are now? What do we look like in a generation? That's what we have to think about.
So let me answer that. The problem is with integration, like Mr. Rudy talked about, we've been moving out Liberty Road for the past 50 years. Now, I told you, it's been a fight the whole time.
Geographical cure.
But 1970, we started going out Liberty Road, and our best and brightest, our upwardly mobile, our educated, moved to Randallstown. And that drains Baltimore City of some of our best and brightest thinkers. They moved to Randallstown because they think they have arrived and they think they don't have to fight no more. The real problem is us moving beyond the Beltway and thinking the fight is over.
Can I ask you a question, Donnie? How many council people do they have out in Baltimore County that are people of color or black on the council right now?
Is it one?
Who was Catherine Pugh's chief of staff?
The little boy.
No, Donnie, tell the people need to understand and know the specificity of what we're talking about. In spite of the fact of us going for the geographical cure out to Baltimore County, which theoretically should look like Baltimore City or mirror it, we got one black city council person out there, or county council person out there. Jim Smith was Catherine Pugh's chief of staff because they forced him to come. They forced her to take him from the county into the city. Okay, look who is our city solicitor now. Because of the real power that they try to dominate.
No, because of the $100,000 loan he gave her.
$200,000,
okay,
Johnny. But the point of it is, to your point, with the PhD power, okay, and all the other power we have, as we see this, we need to be better in our strategy and our communication, because now people hear what's happening because we have a media a media venue in order to expose people to these atrocities, man. This is real stuff. You can't make up the fact that Baltimore County comprises of over almost 40% blacks with one black city county council person. One.
Okay, I can explain that. When we moved out to Liberty Road, I said we subconsciously envisioned the fight as over. So when we moved out to Liberty Road, we became more concerned with paying that mortgage. So if it means working 2 jobs versus going to the PTA meeting versus going to the community meeting, we had to do what we had to do to keep that house, because if we lose the house, we're going to lose the girl.
Hey, Mr. Rudy,
and the girl ain't living in Baltimore
Mr. Rudy, Mr. Rudy, let's be real. McCullough Homes fueled the flight out to Randallstown in Baltimore County. McCullough Homes coming down, by a bomb fueled the flight out there, as well as the Section 8 housing from the 800 homes that they knocked down over in East Baltimore, EBDI, and Forest City to make room for Hopkins Place. That's what fueled the flight out to Baltimore County.
Okay, let me come in for a minute, please. Because we always got to put it in a larger context. Both of y'all are right about things y'all saying, right?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mr. Rudy.
What you're saying is taking in one part of what Donnie said, taking it up. Now, Donnie said something significant with the date, 1970, when it started. What was happening in the 1970s,
68 riots that just ended.
That's right. We was going in the right direction, right? So to turn it around, right, they had to bribe off some of our leadership with the affirmative action.
Concessions.
Okay. Other parts of the leadership, they had to imprison, incarcerate, and exile. We was going in the right direction at that time. So they gave us some bones, and a lot of our people jumped, not comprehending what was going on. It's like, man, we got really smart, intelligent people, but when you listen to them, what I see is that they don't comprehend the whole picture. They comprehend aspects, bits and pieces of the picture. So they think they arguing with each other, really, because one is not seeing one half and the other is seeing the other half. So they think these half is the whole picture, and they argue with each other. And we was going in the right direction then, but they came up with a strategy to turn us around, stop us in our tracks. Because ever since that they kidnapped us, brought us over here, their goal, it's still to this day, has been to stay on top, to keep us in our place, which is the battle.
I just want to add, Mr. Rudy, that there were black people here when the Europeans got here. There were black people in this hemisphere, the Western Hemisphere, right, before the European got here. Matter of fact, black people were navigating those ships out of Spain and Portugal. That's how the Portuguese and Spanish knew how to get here. We have been coming here. And to Quandra's point, no, we're not saying that blacks first went to Baltimore County in 1970. We know that Benjamin Banneker, the scientist, astronomer, he was from Baltimore County. We know about the black people in Oella, but in terms of the recent migration, the mass exodus was from Baltimore City straight out Liberty Road. Now, blacks do live in Essex, in Turner Station, and we have been living there. It's not new, but we're talking about the migration quandary. Gentlemen.
Hey, Donnie, I just want to say before I go, first of all, good discussion as usual. Like I say, I commend you. I commend you. I commend you. I commend you for this platform. This platform has to be taken very seriously. It has to be used as a conduit for us as a people to communicate real issues. What are the real issues? Is it leadership in Baltimore in the future so that we talk and have conversation about who could be the next mayor? Because right now the plotting and planning is going on because, Baltimore's a fire and they're going to, look to run.
Let me tell you this. If the election were today, Brandon Scott would get reelected.
We all know that that's a possibility, but
that's what would happen.
Community.
Stephanie Rawlins, she was having a terrible time and she got elected.
my point is that this medium is the conduit to carry serious conversations and issues, be it the Inflation Reduction Act, the progressive prosecutors disappearing, who's going to be the next president of this country in 2024, so that we can get ahead of the curve. You
I
know,
got
by
a
the time
specific
we have
question for you,
arguments,
Mr. Haney.
we're always too late.
I
We're
got a
always too late in the game.
specific question for you. You are the Black tourism guru in the country. Yesterday, I was down at the harbor. It was packed, particularly on the north side of Pratt Street. I'm talking about Capitol Grill, Chipotle, Fogo de Chao, Marshalls. That 2 blocks, just half of that side of the street was packed. And so my question to you is, isn't that a good sign for Baltimore?
Hey, Donnie, I think any sign's a good sign for Baltimore, but you have to realize that many of Baltimore's attractions have been compressed as a result of the closing of Harbor Place. So, so you may see that people have, then they also lost, the place that they had, the Odd Fellows place. And so we've had a contraction. We need new venues, which is why Shalonda Stokes promoted Blacks going into downtown, and a huge opportunity presents itself. But it is a good sign for Baltimore, but we need more. We need more attractions. We need more toys. We need more things to draw visitors in town. And I appreciate you calling me the nation guru, even though I know you were kidding there. But yeah, I'm passionate.
You are the Black tourism guru. Haven't you managed hotels all over the world?
Yeah, Donnie, I understand that.
Weren't you recognized by the state of Maryland for your work in tourism?
Absolutely, Donnie.
Weren't you the only Black recognized in tourism?
That's almost there, Donnie. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, Lou Fields got some props, but I know you have worked in the industry. I worked in the industry, and there are not many Black general managers throughout the country. And when a Black does become general manager, I remember Robert Steele down at the Hyatt. When we do reach that pinnacle, we're often snatched and taken to cities, to bigger cities that will pay you more money. So the fact that you are here in Baltimore is a huge asset, and we appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that. Being from Baltimore, but I just want to make sure before I go, having Rudy and Donnie, right? And I love Baltimore. And we start off talking about education. We start off trying to figure out what we could do with our young people. We have to take ownership. I'm raising my hand and I'm saying, you know what? There's more I can do. I've got to take ownership. It's my problem, my kids and grandkids, what's happening now, and I've got to do a better job of education.
I need you to clarify. You said that Harbor Place is closed. Can you clarify that?
Well, where, it's gone through a ownership transition. So you were on the north side. If you look at the south or the west side, where they had all the stores, where
Light Street Pavilion, Pratt
Light Street Pavilion, all that is closed. And we knew coming out of the pandemic that entrepreneurial opportunities, and hopefully it shows itself when CIAA comes in here for year 2, because it's suspect in terms of the effect it had on Black businesses. But this is a huge opportunity for Blacks to figure out what it is they can do, go downtown, set up tent, and take some of the money that's coming into this town in the next couple of years.
But you haven't mentioned David Bramble.
You talking about the developer?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing or what's going on with Harbor Place.
I thought he was handling Harbor Place. He was going to redevelop it.
Yeah, well, that's what I heard recently, but nothing's been signed. There was a company out in New York that was interested in it a year ago. Nothing's been signed. No development is going on there now. It's just, there that he wants it, and that's where they're pointed, but we'll see what happens.
Mr. Haney, before you go, we got to allow Mr. Williams, and we thank you for taking time to join us. And just so you know, we're celebrating 20 years in the business tomorrow, but any final thoughts, Mr. Rudy? And you have a birthday coming up, and you got a 1-year celebration coming up. You got to plug this. Me and Mike don't go out to clubs no more, but if Mike comes with me, then we'll do a drive-by.
Okay. And I would love to see y'all come too. What I would like to say is that I enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot. I see how I got a lot more to learn. I've been gone for a long time. I'm ignorant. I need to talk to y'all more in terms of the detailed knowledge of what happened in Baltimore since I was gone. I need to listen. That's why I was listening, because I'm back in the kindergarten.
Hmm.
And I appreciate what I learned, because I can't really say too much about the actual local politics because I was gone for a long time. The personality,
I
the actors,
disagree, Mr.
go ahead,
Rudy.
and the
I
actors, and
think
I can add some general insight based on my knowledge of history, sociology, politics, and all that. But the actual terrain, I'm kind of ignorant of.
let me
I'm
give you a quick sample. Don't you go nowhere, Michael Haney. Mr. Rudy, can they stop heroin business in Baltimore?
Can they stop heroin in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they can if they really want to. Because it got to come from somewhere, and the people that's out there selling it, they don't leave Baltimore. They not bringing it in. They not. Somebody got to bring it. If they stop the people that's bringing it in, you can stop it. You don't see no bazookas. You don't see no tanks out on the street of Baltimore. Why? Because they're not letting them in. What's out there
I
is
hear you.
what they letting in. If they don't want it to get in, they not let it get in.
They gave that basketball player
So
9 years for some weed oil.
yeah, Brittany Griner. And then I heard that they gave a little white girl 2 months for bringing in like 15 grams of marijuana or something. I didn't read it all, but that's what I heard. But the thing is, we have to know how they operate. We're never going to defeat them, right? Based on assumptions, we don't study them and how, because they're coming at us from every kind of way. We can't, and I don't fault the average person for not seeing it, especially when you're in the ring and you're fighting and all that. You can't see the bigger picture. All you see is the person in front of you. That's why you got a coach, you got a team behind you telling you, watch out for this punch, watch out for that. And that's how it is. All we can just see is the pressure on us right now. So we can't see the big picture. You
Well,
take your mind off the pressure, you're going under. You're going to get knocked out.
let me just put a plug in for Black history. A black man is the father of Russian literature. No matter all what you hear about Russia, Mother Russia, look up Alexander Seregnev Pushkin, the
True.
black man who is the father of Russian literature.
Well, they got a problem with Russia. The Europeans got a problem with Russia. They don't recognize Russia as a white nation or country. They recognize them as Oriental. You look at their architecture. You look at their institution, the Kremlin and all that. They have the dome-shaped thing, so they don't recognize as being a white European culture. It's part of being the West.
Well, the black man been to Asia too.
We've been everywhere. Everywhere you go. I even heard.
Yasuki, that's who I was trying to think of. Yasuki, the samurai, the black samurai from Mozambique.
Even on the moon, they showed us a face of a person on the moon.
I don't know about the moon.
Yeah,
I
they
ain't
did.
going up to the moon. I
I'm
live
saying,
for Elon
now,
Musk.
look it up. Look it up. They sent the probes up there, the satellites, and they see like pyramids. They kind of brushes over, and then
I know this. If we go to the moon and we ain't got no money, it's gonna be just as racist up there as it is here.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, if we go to the moon and we start colonizing the moon, I'm gonna tell you who want to be the workers, the laborers, and all.
It's gonna be like Avatar.
Yeah, it's gonna be us. And where they gonna get the labor from? They going into the prisons and all. And they gonna make deals You want to get out early, go to Mars and work for 5 years. Get out early. This is the trend. This is nothing new. Everything is already done before. It's like
I don't trust him here. I know damn well I ain't gonna trust him in outer space.
me neither.
I'm gonna start a Black Wall Street. Okay, we gotta go,
That would be the first.
We gotta go. Have a good day, Mr. Rudy, Mr. Mike. Thank you so much. May the good Lord bless you. Good morning, y'all.
Look forward to us doing this again soon.
Yes, sir.
Good day, Mike. It's a pleasure.